When you think of Leonardo da Vinci, what comes to mind? The Mona Lisa? The Last Supper? What if I told you his greatest work wasn't a painting at all, but something he kept hidden from the world? A collection of notebooks, 13,000 pages filled with secrets so dangerous he had to invent his own language to protect them. This is the story of what's inside Leonardo da Vinci's forbidden notebooks. For most of his life, Leonardo carried these notebooks everywhere. He filled them with his observations, his theories, and his inventions, but he didn't write normally. Everything was written in a bizarre, backward, mirror image script. He was hiding something, but from whom? And what was so important that he went to such extreme lengths to conceal it? 60 years after his death, these mysterious papers fell into the hands of an artist named Pompeo Leone. As Leone pieced them together, he couldn't believe his eyes. The pages revealed anatomical drawings so detailed they could have come from a modern medical textbook. They contained blueprints for terrifying weapons of war, like armored tanks and machine guns. He even found designs for flying machines that looked eerily like modern helicopters, all conceived hundreds of years before they would actually be invented. It was a treasure trove of knowledge from a man who was living in the future. Unfortunately, Leone was more of a collector than a scholar. He cut up the pages and pasted them into new albums, mixing up Leonardo's notes and destroying their original context forever. After Leone died, this priceless collection was broken apart and sold off piece by piece, scattering Leonardo's genius across the libraries and private collections of Europe. His unified vision of the world was shattered into a million fragments. As scholars began to study the scattered pages, they noticed some very strange patterns. The anatomical drawings, for instance, showed a deep understanding of the human body that directly contradicted the teachings of the Church. The weapon designs often contained a single fatal flaw, almost as if Leonardo never intended for them to actually be built. Many of his greatest projects were left unfinished, and some pages were even stained with what looked like dried blood. A chilling theory began to form. Leonardo encrypted his life's work not just for privacy, but for survival. He was terrified of the one power that could destroy him, the Church. In 16th century Italy, the Catholic Church was the ultimate authority. It controlled science, politics, and daily life. Any idea that challenged the Bible was considered heresy, a crime punishable by public humiliation, torture, or even being burned at the stake. Leonardo had already been accused of heresy once in his life. He knew that if the Church discovered his scientific explorations dissecting human bodies, questioning the heavens, he wouldn't just be silenced, he would be erased. So he hid his discoveries in plain sight, veiled in a code that only he could understand. It wasn't until 1938 that a German art historian named Ludwig Heidenreich finally published a book that began to reveal the true radical nature of Leonardo's mind. To understand why Leonardo was so driven, so secretive, we have to go back to his childhood. He was born the illegitimate son of a nobleman and a peasant girl. This status made him an outcast. He was also left-handed, which at the time was seen as a sign of the devil. Denied a formal education and shunned by society, the young Leonardo found solace in nature. He became a master observer, watching the world with an intensity others couldn't match. He saw patterns everywhere in the flow of water, the branching of trees, the flight of birds. For a boy who felt he didn't belong, patterns became his language, a way to make sense of a confusing world. This obsessive need for clarity would define his entire life. Long before Galileo or Newton, Leonardo was discovering the fundamental laws of the universe. He noticed that as a tree grows, the total thickness of its branches at any height is equal to the thickness of the trunk. Today we call this Leonardo's rule, a foundational principle in botany. He observed that distant objects appear hazier and bluer than objects in the foreground, a concept he called atmospheric perspective. He was a scientist in an age before science even had a name, using his artistic eye to document the rules of reality. At 14, he was sent to Florence to apprentice under the great artist Andrea del Verrocchio. It was here that his peculiar habits first became apparent. He would start projects with incredible enthusiasm, only to abandon them midway, distracted by a new question or a more interesting problem. But when he did finish something, it was revolutionary. Verrocchio asked him to paint a single angel in his large Baptism of Christ painting. Leonardo's angel wasn't just beautiful. It was scientifically perfect, rendered with an understanding of light and anatomy that no one had ever seen before. The story goes that Verrocchio was so humbled by his student's genius that he vowed never to pick up a paintbrush again. But just as his career was taking off, his world fell apart. In 1476, Leonardo and several other young men were publicly accused of homosexual intercourse, a crime punishable by death, although the charges were eventually dropped due to a lack of evidence. The humiliation and terror of the experience changed him forever. He retreated from the public eye, becoming more isolated and secretive than ever. The notebooks, once a hobby, became his entire world. They were his sanctuary, the one place where he could explore his ideas without fear of judgment or persecution. This trauma ignited a new, more intense quest to decode reality itself, starting with the most complex machine of all, the human body. He wanted to understand how it worked from the inside out. In the dead of night, he secretly obtained cadavers from hospitals and morgues, a practice strictly forbidden by the church. He worked by candlelight, peeling back the layers of skin, muscle, and bone, drawing everything he saw with breathtaking precision. His anatomical sketches are so accurate they look like MRI scans. He was the first person in history to correctly draw the human spine, the fetus in the womb, and the intricate chambers of the heart. He was mapping the human soul through science. Leonardo believed that everything in nature, including beauty, could be explained by mathematics. He was convinced that the secret to a beautiful face wasn't some magical quality, but a specific set of geometric proportions and ratios. He developed a mathematical formula for the ideal face, measuring the distances between the eyes, nose, mouth, and chin. He believed that beauty was a form of universal harmony, a visual representation of the perfect order he saw everywhere in the cosmos. He applied this same scientific rigor to light. While other artists painted sharp outlines, Leonardo realized that in the real world, light doesn't create hard edges. It creates soft, gradual transitions from light to shadow. He called this phenomenon sfumato, which means turned to smoke in Italian. This revolutionary technique involved applying thin, transparent layers of paint to create a soft, hazy, and incredibly realistic effect. It's the reason the Mona Lisa's smile seems so mysterious and alive, her form blending seamlessly with the world behind her. Leonardo wasn't just painting a portrait. He was painting the very air and light that surrounded his subject. But these discoveries were just the beginning. As Leonardo's obsession grew, his investigations took him into even more dangerous territory, leading him to question the nature of time, the earth, and humanity's place in the universe. In the next part, we will uncover the even more shocking secrets hidden within his notebooks. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching.